it is expected that the Canucks, I think it was Dollywall, who said, well, the Canucks will definitely be in on David Kampf. I saw a lot of people on social media saying, well, the Canucks are probably the only team that can be like, hey, do you want to be a 2C? Because you can do that for us. David Kampf farm kills penalties, defense first, center, makes it an interesting. I don't know if interesting is the right word, but the way Elias Pettersson's being used right now is like, we need you to be the offense, we need you to be the defense. David Kampf would help this team, I think.
Yeah, he's a fourth line center, but this team is currently icing two players in Lucas Reichel and Max Sassin that I don't think should be everyday NHL centers.
And I don't think the Canucks I think the Canucks agree with you because Reichel's ice time down to 11 minutes.
100%. And he just looks out of his depth there. Again, I'm intrigued to see whether he can be more impactful on the wing. He was more effective there in Chicago as well. And then even for Max Sassin, he was off to a good start and popped in some goals. But quietly, you look at the underlying numbers, the Canucks have given up a lot defensively in his minutes. He's a smaller body. He struggles in the faceoff dot. I like him more on the wing than I do at the center ice position. It's where in previous NHL stints before this year, Sassin was on the wing rather than at center. And that's key because now you have a conversation where even when Teddy Blueger comes back, and really I view Blueger and Kampf being similar players role-wise, where Kampf is a bit of a black hole offensively. You're not going to expect him to drive really anything at the offensive end of the rink, but it's the way he's going to be able to help out on a PK. Kampf also is, I think, 6 or 7 years in a row, at least 50% in the faceoff circle. Now, he's not Ratu in the sense that he's not winning 55, 56% of his draws, but closer to the 51, 52% range, which will help a Canucks team that has more or less been destroyed in that department. And then it's the D-zone starts. He's used to a heavy dosage of D-zone starts. You look back to the 2023-24 season with the Toronto Maple Leafs, John Tavares was the only Leafs forward that had more D-zone starts than David Kampf that season. So they desperately need a Kampf-like presence in the short term to help out on the PK, and especially because Adam Foote, after last game, seemed to think that Blueger was more likely to miss the games this road trip than to actually draw back into the lineup. But then even when Blueger returns, there is still space for another NHL center. That's just how dire the Canucks situation is right now.
So David Kampf, how do you see this contract shaking out? Right? Like that's kind of the question, is the Canucks going to be able to offer him a great opportunity when it comes to where he's going to play in the lineup? But what do you think this contract is going to end up looking like? Like some people are throwing out 2 years. 2 years for David Kampf in the middle of a season where he hasn't played an NHL game seems a little silly, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be offering him a multi-year deal. And honestly, I'd be pitching it as you're going to get an opportunity here that you wouldn't get elsewhere. So if you have a good year, why wouldn't you want to cash in on July 1st as a free agent again? Kampf's last deal as well, it's coming off a $2.4 million cap hit. He got paid. He got paid more than Teddy Blueger. And so, yeah, I would only want to go 1 year, even though Blueger comes off the books. So technically you could think, hey, if we want to keep one of these guys as defensive specialist beyond the season, we could offer Kampf the second year. But he's also, he's going to turn 31 years old in January. So he's not exactly young, and you want to see what exactly he has left in the tank. Now, personally, I think it's a lot of why he's fallen off the radar with the Leafs comes down to the coaching change they had, where certain coaches just have their guys that they really like, that they really don't like. Under Sheldon Keefe, David Kampf was not just used as a fourth line center, but at times as a third line checking center. I actually want to go back to the ice time to specifically cite it, but they were using him for, as I mentioned, a ton of D-zone starts, tougher matchups than maybe you'd expect. Yeah, he was averaging 15-18 in the 2022-23 season, 15-16 in the 2021-22 season, and then was around 13 and a half minutes in the 2023-24 campaign. And then you could see under Berube, he just wasn't even an everyday option for them, was healthy scratched at times in the playoffs, and then ultimately didn't make the team. I think a large part of his fall off in Toronto was just he was a great fit under Keefe, and Berube just didn't value him the same way. I'd imagine in part because he's not a physical, hard to play against presence, and we know that Berube coach teams love having those bigger bodies in that bottom six.
I think he's a fit with Foot.
I mean, he's icing Lucas Reichel and Max Sassin right now. So, yeah, I think Adam Foote would probably be happy having a veteran who can take draws. And again, it's just watching Elias Pettersson play right now. It's the number of times he's not just having a matchup against top lines, but start in his own end. It's a ton to ask of him right now. And having just another centerman that Foote can trust to be out in those situations is massive, because this is one of the other things we should maybe talk about is Ratu. I think he's come into his own over the last week or two, and yet he even is averaging less than 13 minutes of ice time. Right? Imagine before the season I told you that Filipino's going to be out of the lineup. Your 2C is Lucas Reichel. You got Max Sassin as an everyday center, and Ratu is averaging less than 13 minutes of ice time. You would be surprised to hear that. And I think it's reflective of even Ratu hasn't fully earned Adam Foote's trust yet, which I actually think Ratu should be getting more ice time, especially when you look at his defensive analytics. But that's important to keep in mind when we have these Kampf conversations as well, is as much as we've spent time pointing to Kampf and Reichel to Sassin as Reichel, as clearly they're not everyday NHL centers. Ratu at least clears that bar, but it's not as if Adam Foote is giving him top 9 like usage either.